You know, with all the recent rain we've got in the past few weeks, do cattle producers need to consider a supplementation program this summer? Well, Sunup's Elizabeth Hoka catches up with OSU Extension beef cattle specialist Dr. Paul Beck to find out more.
We're here now with Dr. Paul Beck, our OSU Extension beef cattle nutrition specialist. And Paul, we're getting into the late parts of summer. We're probably needing to start talking about feeding supplementation. So kind of get us up to speed on what's going on right now and what we might need to be thinking about.
So classically, our summer forages that we're running growing cattle on, whether those are stocker calves or developing replacement heifers, the forage quality starts declining as we get into mid-July. And that's true for nearly all of our forages, the tallgrass prairie species, the short and midgrass prairie species further west. Bermuda grass commonly does start declining just because we start getting into drier weather conditions. That changes what we need to supply those stocker calves to keep an appropriate gain to keep them growing. So classically, the Oklahoma Gold and the Oklahoma Super Gold programs were developed to feed a small amount of protein supplement to these growing calves to increase gain. The Oklahoma Gold program is based on just a 1 pound per day supplementation rate. This could be fed 3 times a week at about 2.5 pounds per feeding. And it provides the nitrogen or protein that's deficient for these growing cattle. So it increases both the protein of the diet that the cattle need, but also it increases the protein that the microbes have to digest the forages that they're consuming. So it increases forage digestion, increases forage passage rate, and then that increases forage intake. So we get a really nice gain response up to about 1/2 pound per day with that 1 pound of supplement. We also use that to carry some needed minerals. A lot of times we're deficient in phosphorus and some ionophores like Rumensin or Bovatec in that supplement. Oklahoma Super Gold is slightly different. It's lower protein, 25 to 30% crude protein, and we're feeding that at 2.5 pounds a day. So about 5.5 to 6 pounds per feeding if we break that up to 3 days per week. And we'll get a little bit more gain because we're providing more energy.
Yeah, so do you recommend that producers do forage testing to figure out what they need to supplement and how much?
That does help, and it does help direct, the supplementation program. But most of the time we can just go by what we normally see throughout the summer and make those decisions based on your forage species you're grazing. Not every supplementation program responds the same way on every forage species. So if we have several different forage resources available, we may want to go with something a little bit more flexible, like the Oklahoma Super Gold program, where we're providing, protein and energy. So if we have cattle on Bermuda grass that need both, or crabgrass that might need both to increase gain, we'll have that available. Tallgrass prairie, where we're predominantly just needing protein, that would provide that as well. So, target what we have, because they don't all respond the same, but most of us have several different forage bases or several different forages we're grazing. So
we just got a lot of rain after having a really dry summer, and that raises concerns in producers' minds about prussic acid poisoning and nitrate toxicity. So what has that been looking like this year?
We've had some regional rains, and in some areas we've had quite a lot of rain through June, and it's turned off dry a little bit and then started raining again here in July. I've had several calls of concerns with prussic acid and nitrates, just wondering if they are a problem right now because of the hot temperatures. And this year I've had some people call and have me test, and we've not seen any so far this year, just because we had some rain in June and we're starting to get the rains in July. So it's not been as big a concern this year. But if you are concerned, the county offices have test kits for both and we can send samples off to the SWAFL lab to have those analyzed.
All right, thanks for catching up with us, Paul. And if you'd like a link to some of the resources that Paul mentioned, just go to sunup.okstate.edu.